All right, so you want to open a restaurant in London. Big dreams.
It's a city that truly lives and breathes food, you know?
But let's be real. It's not all sunshine and Michelin stars.
No, not quite.
There's a whole lot to figure out. Permits, licenses, and, well, surviving in one of the most competitive food scenes on the planet.
It's true, London's restaurant scene, it's not for the faint of heart. But hey, that's why we're here. We're diving deep into the Restaurant Success blog by Manuvio.
Your secret weapon, right?
Yeah.
A roadmap to navigate this culinary jungle.
Exactly. Think of it as your guide, your mentor, maybe even your therapist as you go through this exciting, but let's face it, often stressful journey.
Okay, first things first. This blog paints a pretty vivid picture of London's food scene. Diverse doesn't even begin to describe it.
Diverse, yeah, it really is a culinary melting pot. Michelin-starred restaurants brushing shoulders with family-run curry houses that have been around for generations.
And it seems like each neighborhood has its own distinct personality, its own flavor.
It does, absolutely. You know, you've got Soho, all trendy and experimental, right?
Mayfair, well, that's for the luxury crowd. And then those street food havens like Brixton and Camden. Vibrant doesn't even cut it.
So question is, how does a new restaurant even begin to stand out in this delicious chaos?
It's a good question, because it's not enough to simply serve good food anymore.
Yeah, it's got to be more than that.
You need to understand the locals, what do they crave?
Yeah.
What are their habits? Where do they hang out? It's about fitting into the fabric of the neighborhood.
So imagine trying to open a super high-end vegan place right in the heart of, say, a steakhouse district.
Yeah, that might not be the best recipe for success.
Not quite the target audience. The blog also mentions some massive trends that are shaking up the restaurant scene right now.
Oh yeah, the industry is constantly evolving.
Like sustainability. Everyone's obsessed with local, organic, eco-friendly, all that good stuff.
And it's not just a fad, it's a genuine shift in consumer behavior. People are more conscious than ever about where their food comes from and the impact it has on the planet. So it's not just about delicious food anymore. You've got to show that you care.
You do. You need to have a story, a philosophy, a commitment to ethical and sustainable practices.
And then there's the whole delivery boom. It feels like Deliveroo and Uber Eats are as essential as ovens and fridges these days.
Especially post-pandemic. Those platforms, they've become lifelines for so many restaurants.
But also a whole new set of challenges.
Oh, yeah. Definitely added a layer of complexity to the whole operation.
Because now you're not just running a restaurant, you're also managing a logistics operation.
Think about it. You're dealing with packaging, delivery times, and making sure the food travels well. It's a whole new skill set.
And speaking of challenges, the blog also talks about the double whammy of Brexit and COVID. I mean, talk about a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, those were tough times. Brexit threw a wrench in the works with staffing and supply chains.
And then COVID. The whole industry had to pivot overnight.
Contactless menus, outdoor dining pods, it was a crash course in adaptation and resilience.
But hey, the restaurants that survived, they're the true warriors.
Absolutely. They came out stronger, more innovative, more adaptable. So think of it this way. You're entering a scene that's already been through the fire.
Okay, so let's talk about the less glamorous but super important stuff. Permits and licenses.
The stuff that can make or break your dreams.
I already feel a headache coming on.
Because this is where so many aspiring restaurateurs trip up. They underestimate the complexity, the paperwork, the sheer number of hoops you have to jump through.
So let's break it down, starting with the basics. Food business registration.
Register with the local council 28 days before you open. Can't forget that.
Seems straightforward enough.
Straightforward, but essential. It's your restaurant's birth certificate, proof that you're legit.
Okay, so no cutting corners there. Then there's the alcohol license, which already sounds a bit more intimidating.
It can be a bit of a maze. You've got separate licenses for the premises and for the person selling the booze.
Okay, wait, so 2 licenses just to serve a pint.
That's the gist of it, yeah. You need permission for the place to sell alcohol and then for the person serving it to actually be allowed to do so.
I'm seeing why this whole permit thing can be so daunting. And if we want to add some live music to spice things up.
More licenses.
Of course.
You'll need a PPL and a PRS license. Those cover the royalties for artists when you play their music.
It's a good thing we have this deep dive to guide us.
Right, because it's easy to get lost in the details.
Okay, so we've tackled the permits, but now let's talk health and safety. The blog makes it clear that this is not something to mess around with.
Absolutely not. It's about protecting your customers and your staff.
Right, and your reputation. Because one food poisoning incident, that's all it takes
To ruin everything. Yeah, it's that serious.
Okay, so let's break it down. First up, food safety and hygiene.
The UK has this law, the Food Safety Act of 1990. It's basically the Bible of food safety.
And it covers everything.
Pretty much. From how you store ingredients to how often your staff washes their hands, it's all about minimizing the risk of contamination.
Okay, so cleanliness is definitely next to godliness in the kitchen.
You could say that. And then you've got these things called HACCP procedures, hazard analysis and critical control points.
HACCP, that sounds intense.
It is, but in a good way. It's a system for being super proactive about food safety. You're constantly identifying potential hazards and putting measures in place to prevent them.
So no room for complacency.
Absolutely not. And staff training on all this is non-negotiable.
Okay, so no cutting corners when it comes to food safety. Now, what about fire safety?
Another big one, you've got fire extinguishers, fire blankets, alarms, and those regular fire drills, they're essential.
Because a restaurant kitchen with all those flames and hot surfaces?
It's a potential fire hazard, yeah, so you need to be prepared.
And what about the Health and Safety at Work Act?
That's the umbrella law that covers all aspects of workplace safety. Everything from preventing slips and trips to making sure equipment is safe to use.
So it's about creating a safe and healthy work environment for everyone.
Exactly, and that includes the owner, by the way.
Right, because burnout is a real thing in this industry.
It is. Okay, so we've covered permits, health and safety, now let's get down to business. Choosing your business structure is kind of like choosing the foundation of your restaurant.
The legal groundwork.
Yeah, because it affects everything from your liability to how you pay taxes.
The blog talks about three main options: sole trader, limited company, and partnership. Can you break those down for us?
Sure. Sole trader is the simplest. You're essentially running the business as an individual. Easy to set up, but you're personally liable for any debts the business incurs.
Okay, so high risk, high reward.
Kind of, yeah. A limited company, on the other hand, is a separate legal entity. It offers more protection because you're not personally liable for debts.
But more paperwork, I'm guessing.
More paperwork, more regulations, yeah. And then partnerships, they're ideal if you're teaming up with someone, sharing the responsibilities and hopefully the profits.
Two heads are better than one, they say. But choose your partner wisely.
That's crucial because it's a big commitment. Now, VAT, value-added tax. Once your restaurant starts making over £85,000 a year, VAT registration becomes mandatory.
So it's kind of like a good problem to have.
It is. Means your business is doing well. And finally, the national insurance number. It's basically your tax and Social Security ID. Both you and your employees need one.
Got it. So now, the big question, the one that makes many aspiring restaurateurs sweat: securing financing.
Yes, the money talk.
Because let's face it, opening a restaurant in London, it's not exactly cheap.
Not exactly, no, but it's achievable with careful planning and a solid understanding of the costs involved.
So let's talk numbers. The blog estimates that initial setup costs, like rent, renovations, equipment, all that jazz, can range from £100,000 to £300,000.
That's a pretty good ballpark figure for a small to medium-sized place. Obviously, prime locations or super ambitious projects, those can push that figure way higher.
Right. And then there's those licenses and permits we talked about. Tack on a few £1,000s there.
And don't forget the ongoing costs, things like staff salaries, rent, utilities, marketing, the list goes on.
Those costs, they never sleep.
They don't. You really need to factor those into your budget from day one.
The blog also mentions these sneaky hidden costs, like repairs, equipment breakdowns, things you don't always anticipate.
It's always wise to have a contingency fund, a little financial cushion for those unexpected surprises.
Okay, so we've established that opening a restaurant in London requires a fair bit of cash.
It does.
But how do you actually get your hands on that money?
Well, luckily, there are several funding options available. The blog outlines a few key ones.
Let's hear them.
First off, government grants and loans.
Okay, those sound promising.
They can be a great way to get started. For example, there's the Startup Loans Scheme.
Tell me more.
It offers up to £25,000 with manageable repayment terms, designed specifically for new businesses. A little helping hand from the government.
That's good to know. And then there's the more traditional route, bank loans.
Yeah, banks are more risk-averse, though. They want to see a solid business plan, financial forecasts, proof that you're a good investment.
So a well-crafted business plan is essential.
It is. Absolutely crucial. And then you've got private investment. That's where you seek funding from individuals or venture capital firms.
So more like partners.
In a way, yeah. They provide the capital, you run the business, and hopefully you both share in the profits.
Sounds good in theory.
It can be, but it's important to understand the terms, the equity stakes, and the level of involvement your investors will have.
Right, because giving up control of your culinary baby, that can be tough.
It can be, and then there's crowdfunding. That's become quite popular these days.
The funding, yeah. Platforms like Kickstarter and GoFundMe.
Exactly. It's a way to raise money from a large number of people, often small contributions, but it can add up quickly.
But it's not just about the money, is it?
No. It's also a great way to generate buzz, to build a community around your restaurant even before it opens.
Okay, so we've covered the financial side, the permits. Now let's talk about the most important ingredient in any successful restaurant meeting. The people.
Absolutely. You can have the best concept, the most beautiful space, but without a dedicated and passionate team, you're not going anywhere.
And building a great team, it starts with understanding the legal side of things. The blog highlights some key employment laws that every restaurant owner needs to be aware of.
It's crucial to get this right.
Okay, so what's the first thing on the checklist?
A minimum wage. In 2024, it's $10.42 per hour for anyone over 23. That's non-negotiable.
All right, fair wages are a given. What about holiday pay?
Everyone deserves a break. In the UK, full-time workers get at least 28 days of paid holiday each year, including bank holidays.
Got it. And what about employment contracts?
Those are mandatory. Every employee needs a written contract outlining their role, pay, working hours, all the important details.
So no handshake deals here in London.
No, definitely not. And then you have the right to work checks. You're legally required to check that anyone you hire is actually allowed to work in the UK.
Okay, lots of legal boxes to tick.
Mm-hmm.
But once you've got all that sorted, how do you actually assemble that dream team?
The blog has some great advice on recruitment and training.
I'm all ears.
Finding the best candidates often involves a multi-pronged approach. Advertising on job boards like Indeed or Caterer.com, that's a good start.
Right.
But you can also use specialist recruitment agencies, especially for more senior roles.
And personal recommendations, those can be gold.
Absolutely. Sometimes your network is your best resource.
Okay, so cast a wide net. But it's not just about ticking boxes on a CV, is it?
No, it's not. It's about finding people who fit your restaurant's culture, who share your vision.
Right, because skills can be taught. But that passion, that spark, that's got to be there from the start.
Exactly. Now, once you've assembled your team, comprehensive training is key.
What should that cover?
Well, food hygiene and safety, those are non-negotiables.
Of course.
But it's also about teaching them your restaurant's specific procedures, the flow of service, how to use the POS system.
So giving them the tools to make your vision a reality.
Precisely. And remember, creating a supportive and positive work environment, that's crucial for retaining those talented individuals.
Right, because a happy team equals happy customers. Okay, we've got the team, we've got the permits, we've got the funding. Now it's time to shout about it.
Marketing time.
Because in a city like London, with a restaurant on every corner, you've really got to stand
But no,
out.
you need to cut through the noise and make your voice heard.
The blog talks about crafting a strong brand. What does that even mean in the restaurant world?
It's about defining your identity. What makes you unique? Are you fine dining? Casual? Quirky? Knowing your brand helps you target the right customers?
It's like finding your tribe, your culinary soulmate.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of visuals. Your logo, your color scheme, even the font you use, those all contribute to creating a brand that's memorable.
Okay, so visuals matter.
Big time. And then there's digital marketing. It's essential these days.
Okay, so let's talk about those online strategies.
Well, first up, you need a website, your online home.
Right.
And then there's SEO, search engine optimization, making sure people can actually find your website when they're searching for restaurants.
SEO. Yeah, I've heard it's a bit of a dark art.
It can be. But there are experts who can help you navigate those digital waters.
Good to know. What about social media?
Essential. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. You need to be where your customers are, showcasing your food, your atmosphere, your personality.
Right, it's like a virtual window into your restaurant.
Exactly. And those customer reviews, they can make or break you.
So encourage those happy customers to spread the love online.
Exactly. And then there's email marketing, building a mailing list so you can stay in touch with your customers.
Send them tempting offers they can't resist.
Exactly. Keep them engaged. And don't forget about those traditional marketing tactics either. Local publications, partnerships, events, those still have their place.
Right, because sometimes a good old-fashioned word-of-mouth recommendation is all it takes. Okay, so we've covered branding, marketing. Now let's face it, the part most people dread, taxes and accounting.
The less glamorous side of the business.
Ugh. I can already feel my eyes glazing over.
But don't worry, we'll break it down.
Please do, because I'm much better at whipping up a souffle than balancing a spreadsheet. So, what are the main taxes that restaurant owners in London need to be aware of?
Well, first up, corporation tax. It's basically a tax on your profits, currently 25% for businesses earning over £250,000.
Okay, so if you're rolling in dough, be prepared to share some with the tax man. What else?
Then you've got VAT. That's value-added tax. Remember, once your turnover hits £85,000, you're legally obligated to register for VAT.
Right, and then there's the PAYE and national insurance contributions for your employees.
Exactly. Those are deductions you make from your employees' wages and send to HMRC, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs.
So lots of different taxes to keep track of. But beyond just taxes, what about managing cash flow and expenses?
That's the lifeblood of any business.
Right.
You need to know where your money's coming from, where it's going, and make sure you've got enough to keep the lights on and the ovens firing.
That's the goal. But it sounds easier said than done.
It can be a juggling act. That's where good accounting software can be a lifesaver.
Like what?
Things like QuickBooks, Xero, Sage, they automate a lot of those tedious tasks like invoicing, payroll, and tax filing.
Okay, so technology to the rescue. But if it all feels a bit overwhelming, maybe hiring a professional accountant is a good idea.
It can be a wise investment, especially if numbers aren't your strong suit.
Right. Sometimes it's best to leave it to the experts. Speaking of experts, let's talk about those health inspections.
Ah, yes, the moment of truth.
The blog makes it clear that they're pretty rigorous.
They are. But for good reason. It's about ensuring public safety.
So what can we expect when the inspector shows up?
They'll be checking everything. How you store and handle food, the cleanliness of your kitchen, your storage areas, even your dining space. They're making sure you're running a hygienic operation.
Okay, so it's like a culinary white glove test.
Pretty much. They'll be looking at temperature control, cross-contamination, staff hygiene, all those critical areas.
So think clean uniforms, hair nets, lots of hand washing.
Exactly. And at the end of the inspection, they'll give you a food hygiene rating from 0 to 5.
And that rating's publicly displayed, right?
It is, which means it can make or break your reputation.
Okay, so high stakes. And it seems like compliance with environmental health standards is just as important as food safety these days.
It is. They'll be checking your waste management practices, pest control, all that good stuff.
So no overflowing bins or unwanted critters.
Exactly. You want to show them you're taking this seriously, that you're a responsible business.
So what are some practical tips for making sure your restaurant is always inspection ready?
The key is to make compliance part of your everyday routine, not just a last-minute scramble when you know an inspection is coming.
Right. So it's like brushing your teeth. You won't wait till you have a toothache to start taking care of your dental hygiene.
Exactly. Make it a habit. Staff training is essential. Regular refreshers, internal audits where you kind of inspect your own restaurant.
Like giving yourself a pop quiz before the real exam.
Exactly. And keep detailed records, cleaning schedules, pest control, waste disposal. Those records are your proof that you're doing things right.
Okay, so document everything. We've covered a lot here, from navigating permits to assembling a team. But the journey doesn't end there, does it?
No, it doesn't. Opening a restaurant is just the first step. Then comes the real challenge. Staying afloat, thriving, and making your mark on the London food scene.
And that's where we're heading next.
We're going to explore some common mistakes new restaurant owners make, the ones you want to avoid.
Right, because learning from others' missteps, that's always a smart move.
It is. So buckle up because the adventure continues.
Let's dive in. Okay, so we've navigated the permits, assembled our dream team, secured that all-important funding, and now it's time to talk about those common mistakes. You know, the ones that can trip up even those passionate foodie entrepreneur.
Because let's face it, the restaurant industry, it's a tough business. There are a lot of moving parts, a lot of things that can go wrong.
And in a city like London, where the competition is fierce and the stakes are high, well, you really can't afford to make too many rookie errors.
Exactly. That's why learning from those who've gone before us, those who've tasted both the sweetness of success and the bitterness of failure, well, that can be invaluable.
So let's dive into the blog's wisdom and uncover those pitfalls that we want to avoid at all costs. What's the first mistake on the list?
One of the biggest ones is neglecting market research. It's tempting to get so caught up in the excitement of your concept, you know, that vision you have in your head, that you forget to actually check if there is an audience for it.
Right, you might be dreaming of opening a Cajun seafood shack. But if you're in a neighborhood where everyone's craving vegan ramen, well, you might be setting yourself up for disappointment.
Exactly. Market research is about understanding your target audience. What do they want? What are they willing to pay for? What are their dining habits? Are they looking for a quick lunch spot, a romantic date night destination, or a lively place to gather with friends?
So it's about knowing who you're cooking for.
Absolutely. And understanding the competitive landscape. What other restaurants are in the area? What are they doing well? What are their weaknesses? You need to know what you're up against.
Okay, so do your homework, scout the scene, talk to potential customers, figure out if your concept is a good fit for the neighborhood.
Exactly. Now, another common mistake is ignoring location factors. And I know we touched on this earlier, but it's worth emphasizing.
Because it really is all about location, location, location.
It is. You could have the most incredible food, the most talented chefs, but if your restaurant is hidden away in a dark alley with no foot traffic, chances are people aren't going to find it.
Right, it's like opening a secret speakeasy and forgetting to tell anyone the password.
Exactly. Visibility is key. You want to be in a spot where people can see you, where they're drawn in by the aromas, the ambiance, the energy of your space.
And accessibility too, right? Public transportation, parking, all those practical considerations.
Absolutely. You want to make it easy for people to get to you. And think about the surrounding businesses as well. Are they complementary to your concept? A high-end restaurant might not thrive next to a noisy nightclub.
Right. It's about finding that synergy, that harmony between your restaurant and its environment.
Exactly. Okay. Now, another pitfall that can really trip up new restaurant owners is underestimating the initial costs.
Because it's easy to get caught up in the big picture, the dream, and forget about all those little expenses that can quickly add up.
It happens all the time. People forget about things like marketing and PR, website development, legal fees, all those essential but often overlooked costs.
Right, because you're so focused on the kitchen equipment and the decor that you forget about the behind-the-scenes stuff.
Exactly. And then there are those unexpected costs that inevitably pop up. Equipment breakdowns, permit delays, those things can really throw a wrench in your budget if you're not prepared.
So the message here is to plan carefully, budget generously, and always have a contingency fund for those unexpected surprises.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about the menu itself, because even here, there are common mistakes that new restaurant owners often make.
Okay, I'm all ears. Because the menu, that's the heart and soul of any restaurant, right?
It is. It's your culinary story, your showcase of flavors and creativity. But one of the biggest pitfalls is overcomplicating things. Offering a massive menu with dozens and dozens of dishes.
Right, because it seems like the more choices, the better.
It's a common misconception. But the reality is, a menu that's too big can be a nightmare for your kitchen.
I can imagine. Trying to manage all those ingredients, all those different cooking processes, it sounds like a recipe for chaos.
It can be. It can lead to longer wait times, inconsistent quality, and higher food costs. It's much better to focus on doing a few things exceptionally well than trying to be all things to all people.
So, quality over quantity. The blog also emphasizes the importance of regularly reviewing and updating your menu.
Absolutely. You need to stay relevant, analyze your sales data, get feedback from your customers, see what's trending in the culinary world. And don't be afraid to tweak things, to experiment, to keep your offerings fresh and exciting.
Right, because the restaurant scene is constantly evolving. Okay, now let's talk about a mistake that can be fatal in a city like London, where the competition for diners is fierce. Neglecting marketing and branding.
You can have the most incredible food, the most beautiful space, but if nobody knows about you, well, you're not going to last long.
Right, because it's not enough to just build it and hope they will come.
No, you need to actively attract customers. And that's where marketing and branding come in. It's about creating a unique identity for your restaurant, a story that resonates with your target audience.
And then it's about getting that story out there.
Exactly. And that's where those digital marketing strategies we talked about earlier come in. SEO, social media, email marketing, those are all essential tools for reaching your audience and building buzz around your restaurant.
But don't forget about the power of good old-fashioned word-of-mouth marketing.
Absolutely. Exceptional service, creating a memorable dining experience, encouraging those happy customers to spread the word, that's still one of the most effective forms of marketing.
Okay, so we've covered permits, funding, staffing, marketing, and all those potential pitfalls. It's a lot to take in.
It is. But remember, knowledge is power. The more you know, the better prepared you'll be.
And that's what this deep dive is all about, giving you the insights and resources you need to navigate the exciting, challenging, and ultimately rewarding world of restaurants.
Exactly. Now, before we wrap up this part of our journey, let's talk about some of the resources that can help make your restaurant dreams a reality.
Yes, because there's a lot of support out there for aspiring restaurant owners. You just need to know where to find it.
Exactly. And one of the best places to start is with government websites and support services.
Like what?
Well, the official UK government website, gov.uk, is a treasure trove of information. It covers everything from business registration to licensing requirements to tax obligations. It's your one-stop shop for all things business related.
Okay, so bookmark that one. What about specific guidance on taxes?
Well, that's where HMRC comes in. Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs. Their website has a wealth of information about managing your taxes, including VAT registration, income tax, corporation tax, all the fun stuff.
Right, because nobody wants a surprise visit from the tax man.
Exactly. And don't forget to check with your local council as well. They handle things like restaurant licensing and food safety inspections, so you'll want to be familiar with their specific requirements.
Okay, so government websites, local council, check. But what about support from within the industry itself?
Well, there are some fantastic professional organizations that offer a wealth of resources and support to restaurant owners.
That's great to hear. Can you give us some examples?
Sure. There's the British Hospitality Association, the BHA. They're the leading trade association for the UK hospitality industry.
Okay, so they're kind of like the voice of the industry.
Exactly. They provide industry insights, training programs, and even advocate on behalf of restaurants to the government.
That's fantastic. What about support for small businesses specifically?
Well, there's the Federation of Small Businesses, the FSB. They offer support to small business owners across all sectors, including restaurants.
Okay, so they're like a champion for the little guys.
Exactly. They provide legal advice, tax guidance, networking opportunities, and even discounts on business services.
So a wealth of resources.
They really do cover it all. And then there's the Institute of Hospitality.
What do they do?
They're all about upskilling and connecting hospitality professionals. They offer online training courses, mentorship programs, a wealth of resources to help you grow your business.
So they're like a culinary university. But beyond these formal organizations, what about the good old-fashioned power of networking and mentorship?
Oh, those are essential. You know, the London Chamber of Commerce is a great place to connect with other business owners, suppliers, potential partners, investors. Think of it as a culinary matchmaking service.
I love that. And what about mentorship? Is there a way to find someone who's already walked the restaurant tightrope and can share their wisdom?
Absolutely. Organizations like the Prince's Trust, the British Business Bank, they offer mentorship schemes specifically for small business owners.
So it's like having a culinary guardian angel on your shoulder.
Exactly. Guiding you through those challenging early years. And don't forget about all the food-focused events that happen in London, conferences, festivals, meetups. A great way to immerse yourself in the scene and make those valuable connections.
Right, because sometimes the best advice comes from those who are in the trenches with you.
Exactly. Now, we've talked a lot about analog resources, but let's not forget about the digital tools that can make a restaurant owner's life a whole lot easier.
Technology to the rescue.
Exactly. Things like online reservation systems, they're practically essential these days.
Yeah, OpenTable, ResDairy, those kinds of things.
Exactly. They allow customers to book tables online, streamlines the whole process for everyone, reduces no-shows.
Okay, no more frantic phone calls during the dinner rush.
Exactly. And those point-of-sale systems, POS systems, they can be a lifesaver.
We talked about them earlier. They're like the command center of your restaurant.
Exactly. They manage inventory, track sales, analyze customer data, generate reports, all those essential functions.
So invest in the right technology, and it'll pay off in terms of efficiency and peace of mind.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here, the practical side of things, the resources available, but now I think it's time to shift our focus to something a bit more intangible, a bit more soulful.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Because we've talked about the nuts and bolts, but what about the heart and soul of a restaurant?
Exactly, because at the end of the day, it's not just about licenses and logistics. It's about creating an experience that resonates with people, an experience that makes them want to come back for more.
Okay, so we've talked about all of the practicalities, the business side of things, but now let's talk about the magic ingredient, the thing that turns a good restaurant into a truly great one.
Ah, the X factor.
Exactly. The soul of a restaurant. What is it that makes people fall in love with a place, makes them want to come back again and again.
Well, it's that feeling you get when you walk through the door. The warmth, the buzz, the energy. It's the feeling of being transported somewhere special.
Right. It's an experience, not just a meal.
Exactly. Think about your favorite restaurants. What is it that keeps you going back? Is it the friendly banter with the bartender, the cozy atmosphere, the music that makes you feel like you're on vacation?
It's funny how those little details, those seemingly insignificant things, can make such a big impact. The blog emphasizes that every touch point, from the menu design to the music playlist, contributes to the overall dining experience.
Absolutely. It's all about creating a cohesive narrative, a story that unfolds as the diner moves through the space.
So it's like a theatrical production with the diners as the audience.
Exactly. And you, the restaurateur, are the director, the set designer, the composer, all rolled into one.
So what are some ways that restaurants can really elevate that dining experience, create that wow factor?
Well, music is a powerful tool. Think about the mood you want to create, the energy you want to evoke. A carefully curated playlist can really set the tone.
Right, it's like the soundtrack to their meal. What about lighting? Does that play a role?
Oh, huge. Lighting can make or break the ambiance. Soft, warm lighting creates a sense of intimacy, while brighter lighting can be more energetic, more social. It all depends on the vibe you're going for.
And then, of course, there are the aromas, the smells that waft from the kitchen and tantalize those taste buds.
Ugh, the power of smell. Never underestimate it. Think about the warm, inviting aroma of freshly baked bread, the sizzle of garlic and herbs, the rich, comforting smell of a slow-cooked stew. Those scents create anticipation. They tell a story.
They're like a sensory invitation.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got the music, the lighting, the aromas, but what about the service, the human element?
Service is crucial. It can elevate a meal from good to unforgettable. Friendly, attentive staff who are knowledgeable about the menu, that can make all the difference. It's about making people feel welcome, valued, cared for.
So it's more than just taking orders and delivering food. It's about creating a connection.
Exactly. And those personal touches, a warm greeting, a genuine smile, those little gestures of hospitality, they can make a lasting impression.
All right, so we've talked about the atmosphere of the service. Now let's talk about the star of the show.
Yeah.
The food.
Yeah.
How do you create a menu that not only delights the palate, but also tells a story, reflects your unique vision?
That's where the art and science of menu development come in. It's about understanding your concept, your target audience, and then curating a selection of dishes that not only taste amazing, but also tell a story.
So it's more than just listing dishes. It's about creating a culinary narrative.
Exactly. Think about the ingredients you choose, the cooking techniques you employ, the presentation of each dish. They all contribute to the overall message.
And let's not forget about those mouth-watering descriptions on the menu itself.
Ah, yes. The menu descriptions are like mini love letters to each dish. Entice the diner, pique their curiosity, make them want to order everything.
Okay, so it's about weaving together all these elements, the atmosphere, the service, the food, the story, to create a dining experience that's truly unforgettable.
Exactly. It's about creating a restaurant that people feel a connection to, a place where they want to return again and again.
And that's the magic formula, isn't it?
Yeah.
Creating a restaurant that feeds not just the body, but also the soul. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. From permits and licenses to funding and staffing to marketing and branding, we've explored it all.
We have. It's been quite a journey.
And hopefully it's given our listeners a taste of what it takes to open a restaurant in this incredible city. But remember, this is just the beginning. There's a whole world of culinary knowledge out there waiting to be explored. So be sure to check out the show notes for all those valuable resources we mentioned.
Websites, organizations, online tools, they're all there to help guide you on your journey. And most importantly, never stop learning, experimenting, and following your passion.
Because the world of food is constantly evolving, and that's what makes it so exciting.
Absolutely. It's an adventure.
So to all our aspiring restaurateurs out there, we wish you all the best on your culinary journey.
Bon appetit.
And thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time for another delicious adventure.